Alright everyone, so we have another video here from Swag Kage, and this one is called What If Orochimaru Took Sasuke's Body? Now this video was requested for me to react to, and if you guys have your own videos you want me to watch and react to here on this channel, just let me know about them in the comment section down below. And this is an interesting question. Now I wonder if they're gonna go at this from a narrative perspective, or like they did with the Itachi video, is it going to be more from a power scaling perspective? You know, like they'll ask the question, if Orochimaru took over Sasuke's body, how would he perform against certain characters? You know, like Obito, Pain, Madara, Sasori, Deidara, Hidan, Kakuzu, how would he do? Or how about characters like Naruto, Kakashi? And I just wonder if that's going to be this kind of video, or maybe if it's going to be more from a narrative perspective, like how would it change the story if Orochimaru, when he took over or tried to take over Sasuke's body, he was actually successful, as opposed to what happened in the original story, which was he failed because Sasuke managed to turn the ability against him thanks to his Sharingan. Anyway, let's go ahead and watch this video. And also, guys, as always, check the description for links to this video as well as Swag Kage's channel. So,
how's it going, everybody? It's your boy Swag Kage, Naruto man, resident Naruto lore master, here to talk about what I think is a fairly interesting topic. I don't know if this is like the standard for what ifs now, so I don't want to call it that, but this isn't gonna be like a multi-part series.
Mainly on power scaling too, just very, you know, by the way, y'all guys saw the thumbnail and the title, What If Orochimaru Stole Sasuke's Body? This was like a big thing in part one.
Yeah, like that was back when Orochimaru was like the guy. And as soon as like Naruto lost that fight in the Valley of the End, it was like, oh wait, this is like a real possibility now. It went from like something Orochimaru wants to do to something that Orochimaru might like do. And I always thought it was really cool. And I've always wondered what would happen if he actually succeeded. I think everybody can agree that, like, obviously he'd be a problem, but we're here to talk about how much of a problem he'd be, because there are a lot of factors that I think people might miss, you know, like on their first look, right? Like at first glance.
Right. Yeah, because people just think like, oh yeah, Orochimaru, Sharingan, whoop-de-doo, like there's Madaras and there's Rinnegan's and there's...
Well, the thing that's always... Well, or at least I've always wondered if, you know, Orochimaru did manage to take over Sasuke's body. I feel like eventually there would come a point where Sasuke would manage to take back control, kind of like what happened with Sasuke when he, you know, went up against Itachi and he exhausted most of his chakra, and because of that he couldn't keep Orochimaru in control anymore. And then Orochimaru finally managed to break free. I feel like eventually that would happen, where Orochimaru would... I don't know if, I don't know, because I feel like it would also happen to Itachi, because if Itachi finds out what happened, then he would take it upon himself to, at least I think, to find Orochimaru and, you know, fight him, and then Orochimaru will eventually be driven to a point where he would exhaust most of his chakra, and then he would, basically Sasuke would see it as an opportunity to break free. Because if Orochimaru was able to do it, then I think Sasuke would be able to do it, because... Personally, I think it would be mostly due to the fact that, you know, he's a member of the Uchiha clan. The Uchiha clan, of course, are descendants of, or the descendants of, you know, what was his name? Indra, who inherited who inherited the Sage of Six Paths, Hagoromo's strong mental energy. So I feel like that would make it a lot easier for them to be able to break free of, or it would make Sasuke... It would allow Sasuke to basically break free of Orochimaru's control. It would be a lot easier for him, as opposed to Orochimaru when he was being kept under control by Sasuke. At least that's what I think would happen.
It's like six paths, like what is he gonna do, you know? But it's very interesting. And I think one thing we have to point out real quick, and I think you have done videos on this, Seth has done videos on this, is that like Orochimaru in part one, you know, you could argue either way, but at least from what we know, he's somewhat relative to the third Hokage, and you know, Kabuto and them think he can like handle most Kage anyways, because like Hiruzen was like the strongest at the time, even though he was like old and weakened. So this version of Orochimaru should already scale above that, because I don't think he would want to take a body and become weaker. You know? I don't think that
I don't think so.
I think it's gonna power him down. I agree. If you want to downplay him, like at his absolute worst, like maybe you could say, okay, so like he's not getting weaker, but he's getting stronger than like sick Orochimaru. Like if you want to look at it from that angle, then like maybe he's not stronger than like prime Orochimaru or whatever. But I think that that's like a bit, I don't know if I want to say disingenuous, but I think that's definitely like, I don't think that's the right way to look at it, because Orochimaru was interested in taking Sasuke's body since part 1, right?
Before
Like,
he was sick.
Yeah, exactly. Like, in the middle of the Chunin exams, Leaf Village invasion, like, when he was at the top of his game, had Edo Tensei ready to go, you know, all this stuff, he still wanted Sasuke to come train with him so he could steal his body.
Right.
And,
he wanted him to like fill in the Kimimaro role, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think it's fair to assume then that even if Orochimaru hadn't gotten weaker following his arms getting sealed, I think he still would have been powered up by getting into Sasuke's body. I just don't see like why he would get weaker. It would be really weird. Yeah. So like I agree with you.
It goes against his entire interest in Sasuke to begin with, you know.
So like bare minimum, yeah, he's at least like Orochimaru +1, like at the very least. And he worked really hard, so that's like a super low ball. He worked like really hard,
right,
to get to Sasuke. So I think that Orochimaru like +1 is like a really low ball. But like even then, like even if we assume that like that's the level that he's at, he's still stronger than like all 5 Kage, stronger than most of the Akatsuki. So
there would be some some Akatsuki members he would have difficulty with. So
I guess set the tone for this video, set the scale. Obviously he would take Sasuke's body after the years of training, so part 2 Sasuke and base Sasuke before absorbing Orochimaru was like already putting Naruto in genjutsus and just like, you know, saying, hey, Nine Tails,
he was crazy. Like for
he
real.
basically told him to get back in his cage.
Like obviously, like Sasuke's not like, you know, like top of the line Naruto ninja or whatever. Like you got people like Minato or whatever who, sure, but like so, like you look at it in the context of like what you know about Naruto up to that point, and this guy's like pretty scary. And like you know, he blitzes Yamato, right? Like Yamato can't do anything about it. His exact words in response to seeing Sasuke move are he's fast, so he's already way above Jonin level. And then like, you know, like shortly after this, like this same Naruto with a little bit of training goes and kills one of the Akatsuki, and he still thinks, by the way, we talked about this, Seth and I, in our Sasuke versus the Akatsuki video. Naruto still doesn't think he's caught up to Sasuke yet, after he kills Kakazu with the Ross. And
I remember that video, and I think we did react to it. Someone did request that I react to that video, and I did. You can find it on the channel. The thing that's interesting about, you know, this, about Naruto still thinking that he's weaker than Sasuke, you gotta remember, he was talking about the Sasuke that he met back then. Like, he doesn't know that Sasuke is a lot stronger now, at least at this point. And Naruto doesn't really know. Like, he doesn't have a good idea of how strong Sasuke was at that point in time. He still only knows how strong Sasuke was from when they first met. So you could say that, yeah, at that point, Sasuke was still stronger than Naruto. But yeah, I'm willing to bet that's probably a debate that a lot of people are going to have.
This is pre-Orochimaru absorption Sasuke.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, Naruto doesn't know that he's gotten stronger yet. So
a lot stronger.
Right, that's true. Plus, I mean, I know this is kind of a weird argument to make, but even though he barely caught the W against Deidara with, you know, Orochimaru absorptions, the only thing that may have added is a tiny power boost, extra stamina, and poison resistance. So even like base Sasuke with the Sharingan after those years of training would have still put up a fight against Deidara, and he's like no joke either. So, you know,
like the thing is, like, the only way Deidara wins that fight is by killing himself. So it's not really even a W. It's like a double KO.
A double KO, yeah. So
and like before that happened, Sasuke was like he had every advantage. Deidara
he just kept
on the back foot.
taking him by surprise over and over again.
He couldn't do anything to Sasuke, so like he like straight up like rage
quit
he realized from the match and killed himself.
He realized that Sasuke basically had a counter for every single one of his abilities. Like he had the Sharingan, he had, you know, lightning nature release, which is very effective against earth style release, which is what Deidara uses. So he realized, well, shit, I can't do anything against this guy, so just screw it. I'm committing real life game over.
He actually got like so mad, he started laughing and blew himself up. So
yeah, so I mean, if you're like a Deidara fanboy, like, you know, maybe you could argue that he could still win that fight fine, but at the same time though, Sasuke pre-Orochimaru absorption isn't going out like a chump, you know.
Yeah.
So
the interesting thing about this, I think too, is that Sasuke later says himself that Orochimaru, without like any sickness to worry about, would have been stronger than him. Like he wouldn't have been able to handle that, and that Orochimaru's sickness was the only reason he was able to overpower him.
It was like the perfect storm. Like Sasuke attacked at the perfect time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he saw an opportunity and he took it.
This implies then that this same Sasuke that we've been jerking off for the past 5 minutes, that's like still inferior to base no Sharingan Orochimaru. Okay, so like now, we haven't even gotten to the actual like Uchiha amp that he gets yet. So like take this that we've been talking about, you know, like this, and move the goalposts like further up. Like now Orochimaru is even stronger than that. So then you take this guy who's like stronger, like pretty significantly, because like it would have to be like by a significant margin for Sasuke to be like, yeah, I straight up couldn't have killed him if he wasn't sick, right? Like it wasn't like, oh, it would have been a close fight, or I think I could have done it. It was like, no, he would have beaten me. So like I think that the difference would have been fairly large. So you take that, and now, okay, so Orochimaru's probably a problem that like the whole Akatsuki would be worried about right now. Now people like Obito, Pain, Itachi can probably still handle this Orochimaru, like again without the amps. But then now you give him like a Sharingan and like all this other stuff, like just a base Sharingan, no Mangekyo yet. But it's like, well, now he starts to get a little bit like scary. Now he starts to turn into a little bit of a problem, and it's hard to like place him like power scale wise, like where he'd be here, cause like I mean you could just say, oh, he gets like a standard Sharingan amp, but I don't think it's that simple, because like I think that Sasuke was like, it's hard to explain. Like I don't know if I would say that Sasuke was like physically more powerful or anything like that than like Prime Orochimaru, but I think he gets a lot out of just like having like an Uchiha body and like the Sharingan, like, and all this stuff. Like I think that it, like Orochimaru was able to adjust to the new bodies that he took really quickly. Like that one guy, like the one dude with the white hair who he takes at the end of part one. Like that dude, like you don't see like any of him in Shippuden. Like Orochimaru's just turned that body into his own by then. So
I'm sorry, but the thing that's been kind of bothering me, and I kind of just wanted to bring this up for a bit because I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on this. So the thing is that they brought up the fact that Sasuke at this point, it's like you could make the argument that he's not stronger than Prime Orochimaru, who was relative to the third Hokage, who was considered the strongest Hokage at the time. And the thing is that Sasuke knows that, like, or at least he probably believes that the like his best chance to take down Orochimaru is now when he's sick and he can barely move and he doesn't have access to his arms, excuse me. So he knows all of this. So if that's the case, then why did he feel comfortable to go after Itachi? You see what I mean? Like, why did if he knew that he wasn't as strong as Prime Orochimaru, and Prime Orochimaru knows that he can't take on someone like Itachi, that's why he needed Sasuke, because he knows that Itachi was just too strong. Like, he couldn't do anything against him. And Yet Sasuke, for some reason, believed that at this point, when he's not stronger than Prime Orochimaru, he, for some reason, decides to go up against someone who's even stronger than Prime Orochimaru. Like that's what always confused me. Like, what prompted him to think that he could take on Itachi now? You see what I mean? And I don't think Sasuke knew that Itachi was sick. He only found out about that when Obito told him. And he definitely didn't know that Itachi was nearly blind. Now, granted, he did find out about the the drawback of having the Mangekyo, which is that you slowly start to lose, eyesight. But he only found out about that right before they fought. So, like, what prompted him to think that he could take on Itachi now when he knew that he wasn't stronger than a guy who was already weaker than him? Like, that's always kind of confused me. But I don't know. I like I said, I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on that. Who knows? Maybe you guys can come up with an answer that could, I don't know. It's just something that's always kind of confused me.
Sharingan buff. I think like Orochimaru would take all of Sasuke's abilities, like his lightning affinity, and like really, like take advantage of them and push them to their limit and stuff.
Right, because it's not like he's taking a Kakashi body with like the Sharingan and it has like no mesh whatsoever. He's taking a prime Uchiha body after like years of training with the Sharingan. So it's like,
yeah, exactly.
That should, be enough. And one thing I want to get like your opinions on, and we kind of discussed a little bit of it, before this call off air. And I also want the commenters to kind of like get in on this too, is there's an anime only scene where like Kabuto and Orochimaru, sick Orochimaru by the way, are talking about like, yeah man, if you get like Sasuke's body, not only will you like destroy the 5 Kage, but like the entire continent will bow down before you. and I mean, you and I were discussing right off the bat that like, yeah, that makes sense because like Orochimaru before, getting sick and the whole Grim Reaper still was already like, hey Hiruzen, I'm gonna like fight you and I'm pretty sure I can beat you. We'll see though. That means he would already body the 5 Kage anyways. You know what I mean? Or at least, one-on-one, however you want to, go with it. So that makes sense. But the entire continent, that's interesting. We know Kabuto is aware of most of the Akatsuki members. So like, what's your opinion on that? Like,
so Itachi and Pain are like a little bit weird. And I actually think that whether or not Orochimaru can do anything against Itachi is relevant in this scenario, because like, assuming that Orochimaru successfully takes Sasuke's body, well, the first thing that he has to worry about is Itachi's like there. Like frame 1 at his hideout, Itachi is showing up and he's gonna kill Orochimaru.
Kabuto's like walking out the door and just gets washed.
yeah, exactly. Like Genjutsu, lockdown. And now I think that even if you give Orochimaru like all of these benefits, it's hard to say that he takes out Itachi, because like, now depending on how you want to interpret the length of time between the Uchiha massacre and the beginning of the series, you may be able to assume that like Orochimaru trained in between like throughout this period of time and got significantly more powerful, but it's unquantifiable. So I mean, like if it's kind of hard to say whether or not the possibility is relevant, but the fact is that Orochimaru tried to fight Itachi, little baby kid Itachi, and got bodied. Like he got beat so bad that he literally had to quit the Akatsuki. And he training that you want to say
like I mean, he got some PTSD shit from that fucking encounter with Itachi, so much so that he's like, yeah, fuck you guys, I'm done. It was fucking hilarious.
To get stronger, you obviously have to apply to Itachi, and Itachi was a lot younger, so his room for improvement was, of course, a lot greater. Now, granted, this is a substantial amp, but gets an amp like all of a sudden he'd be able to like win. Like that was a really big like gap in power that that was present there. Like Orochimaru went from wanting to steal Itachi's body, like that being his like goal, to like he gets caught in one genjutsu and suddenly like he's not about any of it anymore.
Yeah, he's just like that one gif of that dude. The deuces, it just disappears, you know.
Yeah, so like I think that Itachi's probably still out of his grasp. Sick Itachi is like a little bit different because like he's not physically that much of a threat, but you do still have to worry about the Susanoo, and it's like, would Orochimaru be able to outlast Itachi's very limited stamina and like not get stabbed by the Totsuka blade? It's kind of like I don't know, man. And like Pain was also like, I mean, I've talked about this so many times before, but like Pain was no joke. Like Naruto went in there with like every bit of data he could have possibly had on Pain. Sage mode, amp, prep time with like 2 clones in the background gathering sage energy. Nine Tails chakra gets unleashed because Hinata almost dies. Minato restores his chakra. Pain had just fought the whole village and blown up the whole village and wasn't in the rain village, so he was like weaker. Like all these things, and Naruto still barely managed
to win
W. So like the guy's a monster. You know, you got 6 bodies to worry about. Shibaku Tensei.
Yeah, I don't think Orochimaru could do anything against Pain, if I'm being honest.
All these things. I don't think Orochimaru's quite there yet. At least not without some training. I think that like with enough time, like with Sasuke's body, I think that maybe he could push himself to that level, because it's not like he's a chump or whatever, but it's that like people like at that strength, it's just like with a base Sharingan, I don't see Orochimaru being able to pull it off. What do you think?
No, I agree with you. I mean, we'll talk about some other amps that he could possibly get in a second, but like right now where we're at, without like training, body modifications, or possibly, you know, higher versions of the Sharingan, I don't really see him going anywhere. I mean, we know he can take out guys like, you know, the Raikage, he'd be like around that area because he was already, you know, around that area anyway.
He was already there before, so it would be easier for him.
You know, and then like Sasuke.
Not that I'm saying fighting the 5 Kage will be easy. It'll definitely be a bit of a challenge, but I think that he would be able to take them on.
That's interesting because they kind of like a little rivalry there. Like imagine Sasuke just getting like bodied by Orochimaru and Sasuke.
That's funny.
I mean, Hidan and Kakashi might be some trouble, but I mean, we'll talk about that like in another video. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that Orochimaru takes out like all of them, like pretty much everybody except for like Obito, Pain, and Itachi get handled. Like all the Kage are done. Obviously, like Naruto, Kakashi, and them, like who cares?
Tsunade might be some trouble. I don't know.
I think that
no,
probably not. You know, Kabuto did beat her, so.
Yeah.
Now I know, like before people get mad, like yeah. There's like the whole blood like phobia thing, but like she still lost to Kabuto, so.
And that's here's the thing. That's not a knock against Kabuto. Kabuto is I think Kabuto's like he's severely underrated, at least when it comes to power. I think that Obito's, or not Obito, I think that Kabuto, like Obito, is heavily underrated because of, you know, I guess the fandom just likes to shit on him for no reason. But no, Kabuto is like, he's pretty strong, but like we know he's not as strong as Orochimaru or Madara or Sasuke or any of that. And if Tsunade lost to that guy, then yeah, I mean your standing does kind of fall at least a little bit.
On the record, it's not like stricken. Yes, she was like nerfed, but like
because of the
to Kabuto, Orochimaru's henchman.
Because of the blood fear thing.
Sasuke amp would be fine.
Come on, bro. She yelled at Madara and lived to tell about it, man. You know, so.
Yeah, but I mean, here's the thing. I think a lot of people know. I've said this multiple times, and normally I don't like to Normally I don't like to repeat certain things because especially after a while, after I've already repeated myself a bunch of times. But yeah, again, Mata was not taking that fight seriously. He just saw it as a chance to have fun. Like that's it. Like because if he wanted to, he could have killed all of them easily. The only reason why he didn't is because he's someone who enjoys a fight, and he hadn't had a fight in a while. So he thought, hey, why not? I'll I'll just have some fun with the five Kage. And then he even said it himself. It's like when he said, all right, I'm bored, I'm gonna leave. That line alone tells you he wasn't even taking them seriously. Like you were just there for a warm up. All right, and now that I've had my fun, I'm gonna go collect the 9 tails, bring back the 10 tails, use this guy to bring myself back to life, become the next Sage 6 Paths or whatever, and I'll put you all under a dream. Good night.
Like I just, yeah, I don't see it.
Right. Okay. Oh, well, okay. Seriously.
We can also talk about like Jiraiya too. Like a lot of people see Orochimaru and Jiraiya as like rivals. Realistically, I think Orochimaru's stronger because like I've talked about this before, and I talked to MJ about it before we started recording. Jiraiya states that he almost got killed by Four-Tail Naruto, and then like Orochimaru just fights an older version of the same Naruto and does fine. It's like even if you assume both versions of Four-Tail Naruto are equal, Orochimaru's performance like is just blatantly superior to Jiraiya's here. So now granted, Jiraiya didn't have like Sage mode, but
and
I don't know, something tells
I guess you could imply that he wasn't really taking it seriously because it was, you know, Naruto, and he wasn't really expecting it. And also you could interpret that Orochimaru at this point wasn't, you know, he wasn't at 100%. He was still like nowhere near his prime, and yet he still did better against Four Tails Naruto than Jiraiya. So I guess you could say he's better than, or he's stronger than base Jiraiya. I think that Sage Mode Jiraiya would give Orochimaru a lot more trouble.
Orochimaru's not letting him get to Sage Mode.
Well, not to mention in part 1, I know like the whole thing with Jiraiya and all that stuff. It's like he wasn't even like thought of when they're like, oh yeah, Orochimaru's like coming after the students, and you know they're like, only if Minato was here. Like only if like no one even like wants to like say, hey Jiraiya, like go get your homeboy, you know. But like
yeah, like Jiraiya was there like training Naruto, and they're just like, oh man, if Minato was here, yeah, we
or like, you know, third Hokage were like a few years younger, you know, Hiruzen or something like that. But it's just, yeah, like he's not even like in the equation to combat like Orochimaru and this.
You don't even bring him up to like
so
get rid of the Sound 4 barrier. I don't know. That's kind of.
Hiruzen's just like, yeah, I guess I'll have to handle this myself.
Yeah, like Jiraiya's like, hey man, if only.
It's like, fuck man, why the hell did I train you if you can't do this shit? And yet I'm an old man and I still gotta clean up your mess.
And he's just like, oh, okay, I guess.
Well, okay, like Jiraiya aside, let's go back to Itachi, because one thing that we have to bring up is Itachi wasn't necessarily going all out against Sasuke when he was sick.
No, he wasn't.
The idea here is that he would most likely be bloodlusted, right? Like right up, ready to go.
Yeah, and he wouldn't be. Yeah, he wouldn't be mentally nerfing himself, which would mean he would do a lot better than he did against Sasuke.
That, like,
which a lot of people forget that Itachi wasn't taking that fight seriously.
He probably takes this Orochimaru to town. And it's not like a situation where he's fighting a bunch of people at once and his stamina gives out. Like he just has to kill Orochimaru is the thing. So, like I know Totsuka Blade GG is like annoying. It's kind of a meme. But I think it actually applies here, and with Pain, same deal. Shibaku Tensei GG.
Well, the only thing I would say against the Totsuka Blade is that would he want to use that ability if he knew that it would risk killing Sasuke too? Because I mean, in the original story, like he stabbed Orochimaru with the Totsuka Blade, and all it did was seal Orochimaru and Sasuke. Like they were kind of separate. So if Orochimaru gets stabbed again, would that only like absorb Orochimaru's soul, and would Sasuke be sort of left there on the ground, kind of like what happened in the original story? Like would the same thing happen, or would something else happen?
Right.
Now, it gets a little more interesting, I think, when you give him the Mangekyo Sharingan, because that's like a big amp, like a big amp.
I mean, the only problem with the Mangekyo is I don't really see how Orochimaru can even awaken it, because like the Mangekyo, it's implied that you need something really strong, like really strong emotion to awaken the Mangekyo. So I just, if I'm being honest, I just don't see how Orochimaru can awaken it. It's not something you can force to awaken. Like, it has to be triggered by really strong emotions. So I don't see Orochimaru being able to awaken the Mangekyo. But I guess it is an interesting question to ask. Like, you know, what if he had it? How would he do against
made Sasuke in his base like equal to, no, stronger than, according to Karin, his Curse Seal 2 state, which is according to Jirobo 10 times amp.
Right.
I think more than a 10 times amp, if I'm remembering correctly. And
yeah, because
Orochimaru and Sasuke have the strongest curse seals.
Yeah, the curse seal of heaven.
This, of course, means that Sasuke has an unquantifiably higher than 10 times amp, just from being like base Sharingan after unlocking the Mangekyo Sharingan. That's huge for Orochimaru, right? Now the question is, like, how would he be able to do it? Because I don't know if he like.
Yeah, that's the question. Like, how would he awaken it?
Sociopathic, like emotionally detached guy. I don't know what could prompt him to awaken it. Maybe like just the joy of finally accomplishing his goal and getting the Sharingan would be so strong that he just like get MS immediately.
I don't know if that would be strong enough, if I'm being honest.
But like that aside, you kind of have to use your imagination to think of how he gets it. But let's just assume that he has it. So I still don't know if he would be able to like beat like a full power Itachi, but I don't think that him beating like sick Itachi is out of the question anymore. Like, especially with all his like especially when you like, it's not like MS Sasuke, like 5 Kage Summit Sasuke versus Itachi at this point. It's like Orochimaru with 5 Kage Summit Sasuke's powers versus Itachi, and
plus
that's like
poison resistance plus insane stamina training, you know.
And like, he doesn't have to deal with like the Kakashi thing where like, oh, he's a non-Uchiha trying to use Sharingan, because like technically he is, but he's in Sasuke's body. It's not a transplant. So
exactly,
you know, like he's fine. And we also talked about this before, but even if you want to give the Raikage every benefit of the doubt possible, after his fight with Sasuke, where Sasuke got like ambushed, by the way, taken completely by surprise, that fight was gonna end with A dying because he like jumped straight into the Amaterasu.
Yeah, if Gaara hadn't saved him, A was dead.
I don't know whether he would have broken through the Susanoo or not, but even if you say he would have, he still would have died. So like, Sasuke there would have like tied with the Raikage, and like, we already explained why like Orochimaru in base is stronger than that. So like, you give him all of Sasuke's tools, and it's like, yeah, like now he's not even on like, he's not even in the same tier, like not even on the Kage's radar anymore. I should say the Kage aren't on his radar anymore. It's really just a question of whether or not he can deal with these like really high tier like Akatsuki members, and I think that he probably can, right? Because he's like, so he's got like, and now it's up in the air again, but like, he's got the Susanoo now, right? Like, he's got like Sasuke's like base amp, he's got all of his other stuff. Like, I imagine Edo Tensei would be usable now.
So the question that I also have when it comes to the Susanoo is that, like, would he know that using the Susanoo would cause his blindness to progress a lot faster? Because that's kind of one of the mistakes that Sasuke did, was that he kept using the Susanoo even though he knew that it would severely like progress his blindness, but he was so blinded by his emotions he completely forgot about that, I guess you could say. Like, so you could ask the question of, or you could ask the question that, would Orochimaru, because it's heavily implied when Sasuke absorbed Orochimaru that Orochimaru had this like incredibly quick regenerative ability, not as good as, you know, someone like Hashirama or Tsunade when she's using mitotic regeneration, but would you say that that would slow down the blindness? Because a question that I've always had, and I'm willing to bet other fans probably also had this, is that, Obito had the Mangekyo for such a long time. Like, why did he never go blind? And the only thing that you can kind of attribute to or use as an explanation as to why he didn't is because half his body was made up of Hashirama Senju's DNA, or at least a variant of it, because, technically it was White Zetsu, and White Zetsu was created using Hashirama Senju's DNA. So you could say that maybe because half his body was that Hashirama's natural his natural healing ability, sorry about that, was just working against the blindness. But because otherwise that's just a plot hole. So I guess otherwise it's just something that Kishimoto probably didn't think about. So I guess Orochimaru, like his version of that, which isn't as strong as Hashirama's, would kind of slow down the healing ability, but I would imagine it wouldn't eliminate it completely. I imagine it would still cause him to go blind, and I don't think in this version Itachi would tell him about the EMS, although Kabuto did say that Orochimaru had a hypothesis that combining Senju and Uchiha DNA would lead to a stronger power. So maybe he also probably had a hypothesis that the Mangekyo would cause you to lose blindness, or would cause you blindness. Excuse me, I can talk. So maybe there's a way to get around that. So maybe that would lead him to making a hypothesis about the EMS.
Right, like he's got like Sasuke's like base amp. He's got all of his other stuff. Like I imagine Edo Tensei would be usable now. He could probably use every chakra nature if he wants, but we know at the very least he can use lightning and fire pretty easily.
I just thought about something.
Yeah.
Imagine Itachi, like sick Itachi, coughing up blood with his little hanky hanging out his chest, going up against like Orochimaru with MS, like 5 Kage Summit Sasuke powers, with the Susanoo over him, guarding him, and then he has like Tobirama and Hashirama in front of the Susanoo.
yeah, like if you give him like Edo Tensei there, it's like, like I don't know what, like if the Susanoo's fully evolved, like I think Itachi's done for. Pain is like iffy, but I'm pretty sure if you give Orochimaru Edo Tensei, he can definitely do it. Like with no Edo Tensei, it's like questionable. But like with them,
I still don't think he'd be able to take on Pain, if I'm being honest.
Like now I don't think he has to worry.
Because Pain is just like he's a very difficult opponent to deal with.
I actually think Orochimaru just like beats the game and like takes over the world, because who does he have to worry about after that? Like Obito, I guess, and like it depends on how strong you think Obito is at that point, I guess. So like if you look at Sasuke's fight with Danzo, like Sasuke's struggling, but he's eventually able to win. But like Obito's just sitting there like, I could just go in at any time and like end Danzo. It'll be whatever. He's got like all these crazy feats of.
Well, the only thing I'll say about Danzo is the reason why like Sasuke was struggling is because Danzo kept using the Izanagi. If Danzo didn't have that, I don't think he would have been able to do as well against Sasuke. He would have just been dead immediately. Because how many times did the Izanagi save his life? It's because he knew, okay, I'm about to die, so I gotta use this. If he didn't have it, I think he would have died immediately.
Like Jinchuriki are like immune to Genjutsu. We like the first time we learned about this, like it's specifically in response to a Sharingan Genjutsu, and Obito just like controls Yagura for years. And nobody even knows. Like it's so convincing and so like thorough with like I don't even know what jutsu he used. I guess it was just regular Mangekyo Genjutsu to like mind control.
I would say that maybe it was probably a Sharingan Genjutsu, but I think at that point Obito's Genjutsu was just so evolved or at such an advanced state that even a perfect Jinchuriki can't resist it. I think that at that point Sasuke was just he just wasn't at the level where he could control a perfect Jinchuriki, you know what I mean? Because we know now in the Boruto era, and I hate using this as an example because I hate this arc so goddamn much, but the time travel arc, like he managed to make Jiraiya and Naruto completely forget that they already met an adult version of Sasuke, and he made Naruto forget that he already met his child. So, and that lasted for years. So it's clear that his Sharingan Genjutsu has evolved to a point where he can make people forget things. So I think it was just at a point where Sasuke, when he went up against B, his Genjutsu just wasn't at a level where it affects both the Jinchuriki and the tailed beasts on the inside. I think it just mostly has to do with their skill level. I think Itachi probably, because he was shown to be a prodigy when it comes to using Genjutsu, so I feel like at that point he would have been able to put Naruto under Genjutsu, especially with Tsukuyomi. Like, I don't think even a perfect Jinchuriki would have been able to resist it.
That's the big thing too, right? Is like the Kamui part. Like, how do you hit him? I don't think Orochimaru would even be able to like fucking damage him.
This is said multiple times. I think once after the Pain fight and once after the 5 Kage Summit arc, Obito like mentions to like Zetsu, like, yeah, if Sasuke gets out of hand, I'll just like end him or something like that. So we know he's not afraid of like taking on any version of Sasuke at that point with the Susanoo and the arrow and the Madarasu.
If it's like after the 5 Kage Summit too, then that means he was like fine with dealing with EMS Sasuke with like no Rinnegan. So
yeah, I mean, dude, I know we're talking about like maybe here that Obito could possibly lose depending on what you give Orochimaru, but at the end of the day, dog, Obito is someone who showed up and like started battling like multiple versions of KCM Naruto, got like Rasengan straight to the fucking face, or Rasen Shuriken,
and still kept going.
Was getting thrown around all over the battlefield, took on most of the alliance by himself, because there's like a lot of scenes, especially in the anime, where Madara's just like watching.
yeah, where like Madara's watching Obito do all the work, like
And then this dude is just getting like thrown around, fights Kakashi, gets stabbed multiple times, gets his body like Zetsu weird thing going on.
His like durability is off the charts. Yeah, like so you know that thing like where like all Jinchuriki die if they have one Biju taken out? Obito has 9 of them taken out at the same time. Well, no, I guess not 9. I guess he didn't actually have Yuki and Kurama.
Yeah, he didn't have the 8 tails and the 9 tails.
7 taken out at once. 8 if you also count the 10 tails as a separate entity. But the point is, it was like a pretty like devastating procedure.
This dude wasn't dying, bro. No matter what. It took like Kaguya to kill him or something.
It took Kaguya using some Kekkei Genkai bullshit to be able to kill this guy.
That like disintegrates you for him to die.
The interesting thing about this is if like this version of Orochimaru kills Itachi, Itachi takes his eyes, you know, you have an Orochimaru with Itachi's eyes, you know, you have all these years of training, modification to the body, Sharingan.
Well, and yeah, also, so that's the other thing I guess we didn't even talk about EMS, right? Like if he has EMS and he's like EMS Sasuke level, I think then
that's true.
Like, wait, like with Edo Itachi? Yeah, Obito's fucked. Like, that's... Yeah, so, like base MS Orochimaru with, like, no Edo's struggles against Obito, but yeah, like, if he's actually already killed Itachi, Obito has a really hard time, and by a really hard time, I mean he loses. But where we're about to go is, like, even crazier than that. So, yeah, I'll let you continue. My bad. I just felt like
No, yeah, you're fine, because we should talk about that, but... You know, Itachi's eyes, everything, like I just said. And an interesting statement from Kabuto is the fact that when he's like conversing with Madara, like right before the Shinobi Alliance versus Madara scene, he's like, I am merely testing out a hypothesis, like from many years of experiments by Lord Orochimaru and myself. And what they're talking about is the Renegade and how he awakened it, and how like what Madara being there, what Madara is doing pretty much confirmed their experiments. So Orochimaru has years of Rinnegan, you know, experimentation and training and stuff like that. So it's if he gets the Rinnegan, bro, if he awakens it.
And the thing is, it's possible that he can, because it's like it's not like he has to like steal it from Nagato, which he could do. But it's not like that's the only avenue he has, because if he gets Sasuke's body, he like this falls in his lap, like he's like the luckiest guy ever. But he just gets the body of the reincarnation of Indra, and all he needs is some Hashirama cells, and they're like boom, right? Like, and he's already he made Yamato, he gave Danzo the Izanagi arm. So, like, he's fine. right? All he has to do is just inject some like Hashirama chakra like into his vein. Like he doesn't even have to do like the wood style surgery, because you know that there's maybe some people who are going to be like, well, why doesn't he use wood style then? Because like we know the procedure like kills people or whatever. Like maybe he doesn't even have to do that. Maybe he just like injects like some of Hashirama's chakra into his body or whatever. But like boom, he has the Rinnegan, and he doesn't have any of the stamina problems that Obito did. He can use both of them fine because those are now his Rinnegan, like in his eyes. So like I think even if he has like the Rinnegan, I legit do still see like Prime Madara and Hashirama probably being able to like take him out.
Yeah,
but,
I would.
Like, where are they? Like they're gone. Like nobody's brought them back, and like who the fuck would? Orochimaru certainly wouldn't. He doesn't need like them to help. And at this point anyway, Orochimaru probably knows better than to try and go get Hashirama like out of the Reaper's belly. So like he wouldn't do that. Like there's really no chance. I mean, Madara is like maybe Orochimaru would do it, but like I don't know. And I think Edo Madara could like probably still maybe handle like I don't know, no, like because this Orochimaru is really strong, and
yeah, I mean,
like as much as I like Madara, I don't think that Edo Madara would be able to do it. Like if he has a perfect Susanoo, then yeah, I think that's GG for like everybody.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, at that point, you might need, and I think people may hate me for saying this, but you might need like 10 Tails Jinchuriki characters or like 6 Pass characters.
6 Pass level characters,
like,
yeah.
Straight up, because so like I think the best way to like put it is like you imagine like Sage Kabuto, like how strong he was, right? And then you imagine that he's like even stronger to begin with, and then you give him a Rinnegan, and you say that he like that's his Rinnegan.
You know what's a good way of looking at it?
Yeah.
Is you take Hiruzen, who had probably one of the best showcases in the entire war, like alongside like Naruto and them.
Yeah.
You have like Hiruzen, right? Old man Hiruzen, 100% full power, doesn't hold back. Give him the perfect Susanoo. Give him all of the Rinnegan abilities. Give him the Sage Mode amp. Give him the EMS amp.
Which is just that's just way too much, dude.
Poison resistance, he can regenerate.
Now we're going into fanfic territory. Calm down.
And like he's also bloodlusted all the time and has like no moral compass, and like doesn't have like the Edo Tensei nerf, but also probably still has like unlimited chakra anyway because he has crazy stamina because he's Orochimaru.
Do we need to say more? Like, should we stop? Should we be like, nah, yeah, all this is just.
I think
like,
they've pretty much made it clear at this point.
Beat by Sikatashi.
Like, I mean, it might be wank to say he even gets the Rinnegan, but like, is it really? Because like he's in.
Well, the only thing about the Rinnegan is it would take a long time before it manifests into him, because it's kind of implied it takes a while before it actually shows up.
The entire like nation bowing down to him may not even be capped, because that Kabuto by that point should have knowledge of the Rinnegan, because they mentioned years of experimentation. So it's like
I think that what would happen is he would try to mess around with Hashirama's chakra, and then boom, the Rinnegan would just happen.
The Rinnegan would just happen, yeah. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, a lot of this goes off of like just Itachi's motive. Like whatever Itachi's course of action is shapes up like this entire what if, because either Orochimaru hides out in seclusion and is able to train, modify Sasuke's body, does the whole Hashirama injection, chakra, etc., right?
Yeah.
Or Itachi shows up straight up, like as soon as he takes Sasuke's body, and then Orochimaru gets clapped, so he doesn't get a chance to do all that shit. You know, so it really depends on like Itachi's course of action, because he may just pull up to their hideout and just do what he did to like Kabuto, like immediately activate like Susanoo and just be like, let's go, so
I I think the only thing that's really like iffy is whether or not he can get Sage Mode. I don't think that it's that outrageous. But if you want to throw that out, I guess you can. I still think.
I think he would. I mean, if he has Sasuke's body.
Like if you give him Sage Mode, I think like that's where you need like the 6 pads characters. Before that, I don't know. Like it's maybe like you could probably still handle him with like full power Hashirama and stuff. But like once you give him the Sage Mode, that's when he's like completely untouchable by
it would just be too characters. He'd be too much of a difficult opponent to deal with
too. Like at this point, if Orochimaru does get Sage Mode, he's probably gonna go like round up the remaining Biju, because like what's stopping him from like running up on Naruto and getting the 9 tails and the Geto Mazo? Because now he has a Rinnegan, so he can summon it. So, what's stopping him from sealing the 8 tails and the 9 tails and the Geto Mazo and getting 6 paths powers of his own and like literally being unstoppable?
I mean, I guess we've talked enough about this. The idea here is that if realistically, if you don't count Rinnegan, if you don't count Sage Mode, you know, Mangekyo Sharingan Orochimaru is probably like Sikatachi level, maybe a little bit higher. So yeah, I think that's like the realistic level. But if you want to give him like Rinnegan and Sage Mode, then
that's when he gets
him up to you could amp him up to like full power Madara, like 10 tails Obito, I guess.
Yeah. And I hope you guys have fun. Or had fun. Fuck. I misspoke so many times this video. Bye everybody.
Yeah, bye. I'm keeping this in, by the way.
Oh no.
Later.
All right, guys. This video's already gone on long enough. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, guys, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and make sure to leave a comment with any video requests you guys have. And I hope you'll join me for my next reaction. Bye for now.